It's the Queen City Music Podcast, the podcast devoted to the local music scene in Charlotte, North Carolina. Here's your host, Matthew Ablin.
Hello and welcome to episode 59 of the Queen City Music Podcast. This episode of the Queen City Music Podcast is sponsored by Middle Sea Jazz, Charlotte's premier jazz club located at 300 South Brevard Street in Uptown Charlotte. Stop in for Thursday night jazz jams, gospel Sundays every third Sunday of the month, or bi-weekly Wednesdays for Remember Wednesdays. But if you prefer, stay in for the evening and watch their Saturday night live stream, where you'll have access to the best performances Middle Sea Jazz has to offer. And if you want the VIP treatment, get a Baby Grand membership, where life takes you to a higher note. Tickets are now available for 480 East on August 5th, Eric Essex in Stride on August 7th, Bob Baldwin, contemporary, smooth, and Latin Brazilian jazz with a dose of urban funk on August 19th and 20th. Then Samara Joy featuring the Pasquale Grasso Trio on August 27th. And if you're in need of instruments or supplies, head over to Midwood Guitar Studio, Charlotte, North Carolina's own boutique guitar shop located in Plaza Midwood. Midwood Guitar Studio not only has the finest selection of boutique guitars, but familiar names like Fender, Martin, Taylor, Two Rock, and many others. Whether it's a guitar, bass, amp, effects pedal, or a much-needed accessory, the knowledgeable and friendly staff at Midwood Guitar Studio will help guide you in the right direction for your next purchase. And for all your guitar repair needs, Midwood Guitar Studio now has a luthier on staff. Visit their website at midwoodguitarstudio.com or stop in to see their unique shop at 1517 Central Avenue, Charlotte, North Carolina. This month on episode 59 of the QCMP, I'm speaking with Courtney, Lyyn, and Quinn, whose amazing harmonies make them a standout in the field of Americana music. They've performed on Charlotte Today and won the National Songwriter Universe contest for their original music. I want to apologize in advance because there were some technical difficulties when recording this episode. I didn't find out until later, and I couldn't get back in touch with Courtney, Lyyn, and Quinn to come back in and re-record with me. So I've done my best to clean up the episode. Please forgive me. And it's such a spectacular interview with them, I wanted to release it anyway. Enjoy. Courtney, Lyyn, and Quinn, welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast. Great to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
All right, so I start the podcast off the same way. Are you ladies originally from the Charlotte area? Let's start with Quinn.
Not originally, no. I'm originally from Wilmington, North Carolina, but I moved quite a bit. Right out of college, I moved to New York City, and then Los Angeles, and then Phoenix, which is where I fell in love with my beautiful wife. And then we actually made the move to Charlotte, North Carolina together.
And originally I'm from Indiana, but just like Quinn, I did a lot of moving around, West Virginia, Jamaica, LA, which is where we originally met, Arizona, and then to Charlotte.
Okay. So how did you guys meet up in LA?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We met in LA. We fell in love in Phoenix.
Okay.
Funny story. So
yeah, fill me in.
We were both couch surfing, and we were couch surfing the same couch. So we arrived, and we're kind of fighting over whose couch is this.
I claimed it. It was mine. Yeah.
So it's a wild story because one of my best friends from high school, she moved out to LA, and one of her coworkers lived in LA.
Okay.
These two people both had kind of a housing situation at the same time where they needed a roommate urgently. So they met each other on Craigslist. And then shortly after they moved in together, Quinn and I both came to visit, our counterparts there. Yeah. So my friend, her coworker, happened to be at the same time trying out LA. And we were just instant friends.
Yeah.
And did you have a musical connection at that point? Were you both doing music?
Yeah, we connected on music, but Courtney at the time was not really doing music as far as like the way she's doing it now, I would say. I was always just in the entertainment industry, but I was mostly trying to do dance at that point, like professional dancing. So musical theater styled stuff or commercial dance, like for, tours and TV and things like that. So that's awesome. I wasn't really focused on music, but I always was doing music somehow,
I mean, we connected with music very early on. I would say like within the first
day.
First
The first day we met? Yeah.
We played some music together because she sang, and I had written a lot of songs. I just wasn't performing. Wasn't my motivation for writing.
Okay.
So yeah, the connection was there right away.
Well, what's your musical background, Courtney? Courtney Lyyn, excuse me.
Music lover. I didn't grow up in a particularly musical family. I just always, from my earliest memory, loved music. I can remember my mom giving me a bath when I was like 3 years old and asking me what I wanted to be when I got older, and me responding a singer. So it was just always in me, and when I hit high school, I really had a lot of interest in learning an instrument. And then when I picked up guitar, it was just like so natural to me. And then I fell in love with songwriting. Did
you do like choir in high school or junior high or things like that?
Yeah, I did choir, and I did a little bit of theater.
Okay.
But mostly I just loved writing songs. I would just sit in my bedroom and write. I had dozens and dozens of songs by the time I met Quinn, sharing them with no one.
And when we met, she was 19, so if that gives you any inclination of how young she was when she started writing. Yeah.
And how about you, Quinn? Were you just singing in like high school, junior high, that kind of thing, the normal?
Yeah, totally. I started dancing when I was 2.5, and then when I got into middle school, I started, chorus and loved it. And then in high school, stayed in chorus, and then moved into musical theater through the end of my high school days, and then into college too. Right. I was doing musical theater, and then I just love singing. And then when I was in college, actually, I was in a jazz band for a little bit of time too, which was really fun for me. And then just kind of stayed. I've always just, music's been in my life forever. Yeah, all things music.
Music from the first time I met.
Okay.
Yeah.
Driving on the street, and I was like, what is this crap you're listening to? And he was like, excuse me, get out of the car.
It was like Otis Redding. I was like, crap. I'm sorry.
I grew up in a sheltered world, so to me, like pop radio, music-wise, that's all there was. So I've definitely learned a lot about what real music is.
So you two meet in L.A., and then how did you meet up or fall in love or meet in Phoenix?
It's a really weird, long story, but I'll give you the short version.
Yeah.
I lived in L.A. I stayed in L.A. When I went to visit, I ended up saying, like, I'm going to try it out. So I stayed for 2 years. Courtney and
for 2 months and realized I'm a country girl, so I was
yeah, she was gone. But we stayed friends, and the whole time through LA, I was just like kind of struggling and went through like a really dark depression in LA, and stayed in contact with her, and she told me she was moving out to Phoenix for a relationship at the time. And then basically I was telling her like all this hard stuff I was going through. I was like, I don't know. I need to get out of LA. I just don't know where I want to go. I think I need a change in career path. I need to get out of the arts, and so I like completely shifted and used my biology degree that I actually have and went into social work.
Wow.
But she got me the job. So she was working at a social work company in Phoenix at the time. And she was like, I can get you a job. You have a biology degree. Like, if you want to change a pace, like, just come interview. And that was like history. That was it. So.
And how did you guys make your way to Charlotte? Were you in Phoenix and then you came to Charlotte?
Yeah, we were both in Phoenix, and we both were at a place where we knew we wanted to be closer to family in general. Yeah. And
I also missed having 4 seasons. I'm not going to lie.
Same. Yeah. I couldn't do Phoenix. Oh my gosh.
Phoenix is like, it's a dry heat. And I'm like, so is an oven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot.
I almost took a job out there, and it wasn't actually, I wanted to move out west, but I decided that I didn't want to take the job just because the pension, the benefits were not very good. And when I came to Charlotte, I was like, much better in the pension department. I'll take that.
Yeah.
So.
No, Charlotte was going to be a stopping point, honestly. We had planned, we spent like all of our money moving across country, and Quinn had a good friend who lived here actually in
Rock Hill, technically, yeah.
And she has like a beautiful farmhouse and like kind of an upstairs apartment. And she was like, why don't you guys just come to Charlotte for a couple months, get some easy jobs, get your nest egg built back up, and then move. Our original plan was to move to Nashville. She was like, you can take some time to scope out the city and all that stuff. So that was the plan. And then I know I turned that off.
Did you turn it on?
There's always a phone.
Okay. Anyway.
So yeah, I mean, we were here for a couple months, and we just fell in love with Charlotte. We loved it so much, and we connected with the music community here so quick.
Mm-hmm. Actually, Smokey Joe's was like one of the first places we got connected with music.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's where we met
So
our
when
drummer.
did you get to Charlotte? What year?
15.
15?
No, 16. 2016.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When I got here in 06, there was maybe a little bit of original scene, and you'll know because you were here for a while when seeing the city grow. There wasn't that much.
Yeah.
Like all the breweries that have popped up and restaurants now, there's more places to play, more musicians as well, but it's the music scene is a little more thriving, as it were. I mean, it's a lot of covers.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of original
that,
stuff going too, so it's pretty neat.
It is cool. There's so many people we've connected with and stayed in touch with, original musicians anyway, and we have loved being a part of Charlotte and the Charlotte community because there really is like a sense of community building in this music scene here, and a lot of people don't necessarily always see that, but if you're a part of it, you feel it.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. So.
All right, so we're in Phoenix, we make our way to Charlotte, and when do you start writing and doing music together? Is that a thing before you got here?
No, that's a great question actually, because we
were doing it at home.
Yeah.
We were playing music together and doing it with mics and stuff for fun, but like as a career move, we were like, no, we shouldn't mix relationship with music. You know, we don't want a Fleetwood Mac type of thing.
Yeah.
So we were pretty adamant that we were not going to do that.
Right,
yeah.
about who didn't do the dishes that night.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, we had long discussions about it, and I actually started my own band in Charlotte.
It was called After the Rain.
It was called After the Rain.
Okay.
Yeah. It's pretty bad. And then Courtney was doing her own solo thing as Courtney Lyyn.
Okay.
And that's where the Courtney Lyyn comes from. So, yeah, we were very separate in the beginning. And then finally, our drummer, Steve, who is still with us today, he and our bass player at the time, Brandon, they both were like, okay, our guitar player is not working out in this band. I was like, yeah, I agree. It's just not working. So I was like, Courtney can just come play with us while we're like getting, finding a new guitarist. And then, I don't know, I think like 3 rehearsals in or something like that after she did like 3 rehearsals with us. Brandon and Steve like pulled me aside and they were like, okay, so what is y'all's problem? Like, why aren't y'all playing together? And I was like, I honestly don't know at this point. Like, and then it just sort of like fizzled into, it was Courtney, Lyyn, and Quinn after that.
So your
point.
band members recognized that your voices worked really well together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And I won't say that there haven't ever been issues. There have. Like, it does make it more complicated when you're so intimately involved with your musical partner, but at the same time, I think the beauties of that relationship have far, far outweighed any kind of challenges that we've had. And I don't get bored of Quinn. Like, she's really, truly my best friend.
Yeah.
We have so much fun together, so it doesn't feel like too much.
Yeah. And then also, too, like, it's kind of nice because when you are that close to someone, it's almost like therapy in a way. Like you see like your own flaws. Like I had some insecurities in the beginning. Like I was like, oh, you're such a better songwriter. Like my stuff is crap. I'm not going to even bring it to the table. Like I had to look at myself in the mirror and be like, okay, this is an insecurity that I need to face. This is someone who loves me. Like this is vulnerable. Like, work through all that. And it was kind of a nice thing to go through because then you face it.
It is. But I tell you, I mean, writing like my EP, and you said you've been writing before you guys started doing your stuff. If you look back, let's just say the Beatles offhand. You listen to the first Beatles album, their singles, and you listen to the White Album, it's not the same. So everybody's got to start somewhere where it's either awful or maybe you're lucky and you start off right off way and you write a great song, but everybody's got to start somewhere and they've got to develop.
Yeah.
So you should never feel bad, that like I'm not that great because if you just started, everybody starts somewhere.
Right.
So
yeah.
Exactly.
So what is the approach to songwriting for you ladies, since we've been talking about writing?
Yeah, I think this is a great question, and also one of the reasons why I struggle to co-write, because when I'm writing a song, I usually start with like a guitar, progression that I like.
Yeah.
And then the next phase is me, like, humming out a melody. And usually I just pick a lot of, like, nonsensical words to kind of try to find, like, what I want the chorus to sound like, the verses to sound like. And then my last step is filling in the lyrics.
Okay.
And so I have such a hard time with that middle phase. Because like, when I'm doing it by myself, I don't think about it. But when someone's sitting in front of you and you're just, like, saying dumb stuff, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want you to hear me doing all that.
Yeah.
So when you're writing, if you're coming up with the chord progression first, then you're getting the melody. It's kind of very similar to the way I write.
Yeah.
But Quinn, you don't play an instrument.
No.
So do you have a book where you're just writing down words to lyrics? Is
I
that
have
how
like
it works for you?
napkins and random notepads and journals and my
Phone?
phone,
Yeah.
like just, and like phone recordings of me just like singing a melody, like so many random, but cause mine is usually a melody and words. Like I can hear a melody in my head and I know this is what I want the song to sound like.
Right.
But I have no idea how to play it on anything.
Right.
So I'm kind of at the hands. Is that the right phrase? I'm at the hands of someone else? No, that's not right. I'm in someone else's hands.
There
is
you
what
go.
I mean. Yeah.
That's it.
Anyway, so mine's a little bit more difficult, but that's kind of what we're working on now. And, like me just sharing words and sharing like the story that I've laid out and her kind of helping me match it or whatever. So.
All right. So you sit down, you start writing, you realize you're good together working on the music. Do you have a conversation about what the musical direction is? Or do you just kind of like, this is what I'm writing, this is what's coming out, this is the direction we're going? You know, because you're not a metal band.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
Sure, right.
Like, so do you have a...
I think it used to be the latter, because I did approach songwriting as kind of like this therapeutic, we were just talking about this, actually, like, it was this very therapeutic thing for me. I had a lot of possession over my songs and the way they sounded, because it was a direct reflection of, you know, what was going on in my life and what I was feeling. So the way I'm expressing it is like, no, this is how it feels to me. So for someone to change or alter, or even suggest altering it, it almost felt like an insult to the story that I was trying to express.
Right.
Whereas now, you know, even though I'm still connecting with personal things, I'm seeing songwriting in a very different way, and I want that collaboration, because you put two minds together and you get, you know, better ideas usually.
Yeah, like we were just working on a country song together. We knew like it was like someone else's song technically that they wanted us to kind of compose and write the melody to. And so, we knew they wanted a country song. So we were like, she had that in mind. She's like writing and all this stuff. And then I come in and I'm like, ooh, but I think this, or I think that, and like it will like change the dynamic or the, you know, areas of the song certain ways, you know? So like, it's been fun to be able to get to that place with the songwriting portion of our relationship, because now it's more collaborative.
So when you say collaborative, are you sitting down at the same time and Courtney Lyyn says, okay, I've got this guitar part, and you say, okay, I think? Or does Courtney Lyyn, is she on her own doing some stuff and then she comes back and she's like, hey, I've got this?
It usually is like that most of the time, because her inspiration is random. Like, I'll go shopping for like 2 hours and I'll come home and she'll be like, hey, I found this lick that I want to work on. You know, so it's like that inspiration, I think, comes more naturally when someone's not around her.
Because I found collaboration for myself, maybe like you, it's kind of hard because, especially guitar being my main instrument, if I come up with something and I'm jamming with somebody and they're like, oh, let's turn this into a song, you start getting all this part, and I'm like, you hit that brick wall and you're like, I don't know what comes next.
Yeah.
And then they're waiting on you. They're looking at you like you're supposed to come up with this next genius part. And you're like,
the pressure.
Yeah.
No, and I already struggle with anxiety. I've had a long battle with anxiety. So for me, like, having someone staring at me while I'm trying to be creative is like, I'm shutting down.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
And maybe people don't realize, but when you're songwriting, you might come up with this first half that's great, can't come up with anything else for it, and you'll shelve it. And you might come up with something like 6 months, a year later. I've heard of people 10 years later, you know, the guys, they're like, broke out this old tape from 20 years ago, and I found this lick, and I had another part to it 20 years later.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of interesting the way it works out.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk. So you guys doing original music, did you ever do covers at first?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we still do cover shows.
Yeah.
We started playing open mics with cover songs, I would say, right? Like, I mean, that's just the easy way to get to know each other's vocal range and work together.
Practically, it's the easiest way to start making money.
Well, that's
as a musician, and it's a good way to grow and, like she said, get connected with the music scene and each other. So we still play cover shows. I enjoy cover shows.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun.
I think they're great, and they're also a fantastic way to work on your stagecraft.
Absolutely.
Like, because there's a lot of people who just like, I've seen bands just starting out, and they're what they call the shoegazers. They're just staring at their shoes when they're playing, and they don't want to look at the audience. They don't want to move. They just very stiff when they're playing, and it's like, oh, they haven't done this very long.
Yeah. Well, and cover shows too are like, for me anyway, like kind of like a break. They're not as pressure filled, like when it's your own original music and you're like trying to get followers for that. It's like, oh my gosh, are people going to like it? Are they going to enjoy it? Like, does it sound good? But when it's a cover show, you're like, well, people already know this song, like what's the worst that can happen? My voice is going to crack. I don't know. It's just more fun. It's like, not more fun. I shouldn't say that because I love our original stuff, but it's less pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
And cover shows are great because it's another, as we were talking about, it's another source of income. You can play a cover show, and you might not have as many original shows back to back, but you might play all weekend doing covers, and you have that extra income coming in, which is always nice for musicians.
I mean,
it's tough because it's like, it's kind of a double-edged sword sometimes, I think. And for people who are independent musicians, they will understand this. For those of you who are not, I think sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around like how this industry works nowadays. And for us, I think we had to get to a point where like, okay, we want to play music for a living. Well, the only way to do that right now is to play cover shows. Well, then you're playing cover shows, 5 nights a week, and you have less energy and less time for original music. And so it almost starts pulling away from your original aspirations. So you have to figure out that balance of like getting paid for these cover shows and also continuing to expand what you're doing with original music. So it's good and bad at the same time.
Yeah, it's a tightrope. You got to walk that fine line.
Yeah.
So when you ladies are recording, do you have a home studio set up to do like a demo, or are you just kind of like write it out? I'm getting used to playing and going into a regular studio. How do you work?
We have a little setup at home for like our own purposes and for like little videos here and there, but for any like things that we put out, on Spotify or for recorded purposes, we usually just go to a studio, just so we can have that professional sound and also have another ear on the music and on the song.
Okay.
So,
and when you record, are there certain studios, at least in Charlotte, that you've been going to, or have you been going out of town? People that you've worked with, or has it just been all over the place?
That's been a challenge for us. I feel like is finding like a place that feels totally fitting. I mean, we've had great experiences with every recording we've done. It's just, I don't know if we found like the match yet. It's like a relationship you build. I think there's some people who find a recording studio and like a producer that they just click with instantly and that works for them. But like for us, it's sort of been like a trial and error kind of thing. And we've been very fortunate to work with some of the people we've worked with and enjoyed the experience and like the learning process and all that stuff. But I think we're still searching.
When you say comfortable, you don't mean necessarily the studio itself. You mean the engineer and the producer,
right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just trying to figure out. I mean, it's a whole language, and like we've said many times before in this interview, music is vulnerable, and so like finding the person who like connects with you and what you're trying to communicate and understands that easily. I think that's an ongoing relationship, but also it is a relationship. So you're trying to find someone who clicks really well and sees your vision and can expand on that. So yeah, I mean, like Quinn said, we've had incredible experiences every single time we've recorded something. We're still trying to find the right.
Yeah. And it might be us. Maybe we're just crazy.
We could be. I mean, very well.
No, I mean, it's hard to find. First off, it's hard enough to find regular musicians that you play with that you can enjoy playing with on a regular basis. And then you're talking about a producer. Now you're bringing somebody who is supposed to be part of the quote-unquote process. So that's another thing, because you might have something in your head where the music's going, and then somebody else is like, yeah, I don't like this part. And you're like, what? I just spent, X amount of time crafting this. What do you mean? So it's tough to bring somebody into the creative process.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
I don't think you're crazy at all.
Yeah.
I'm the one who's crazy.
Aren't we all a little crazy?
I knew you were going to do it. And we played Crazy by Gnarls Barkley in our cover shows, and Quinn has these things she says every single time, and that's one of them.
There you go.
Yeah.
We're all a little crazy. Radio voice.
I am a huge fan of dad jokes and anything weird, so.
There you go. All right, so let's jump back a little bit. Talking about songwriting, talking about studio work, recording. You had a EP come out in 2019. Fill me in.
Remiss is the name of the EP. It was a little darker than...
Mm-hmm. I put out a solo album in 2017, just under my name. It was called Wander Years, and it was very, kind of light and bubbly. And
it was like pop folk.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, just to be, totally transparent, I went through a really difficult phase of life, and a lot of times my music is a reflection of what's personally going on in my life, and that it was. Remiss was a reflection of some of the personal strifes that I was having. And so yeah, it's a little darker, it's a little edgier, a little heavier instrumentation-wise, but was really fun.
It was a really fun project, yeah.
Where did you record that one?
We were able to record up in Statesville at a place called Evolve Productions.
Okay.
Yep.
And was that a good experience? Because we were talking about finding a producer.
It was a great experience. Actually, the person who runs Evolve is also a dear friend of ours still and plays bass with us every now and then as well. And the thing I think we missed in that moment was having more of a producer ideology. Is that the word I'm looking for? Mentality is what I meant. More of a producer mentality, because we were connected and we were close, and they just let us kind of do whatever we wanted, which was great. But sometimes you kind of, when you look back, hindsight's 2020, but when you look back, you're like, I kind of wish maybe I would have had a little bit more direction or guidance on certain sounds and, whatever.
We need our Goldilocks.
Yeah. But they were fantastic to work with. We were super happy with working with them, and
really reasonable. And he's a musician himself, so he gets making that process affordable and also quality.
Yeah. So.
And how about the musicians who played on the recording? We talked earlier before we started recording the podcast. Do you have a regular stable of a band of musicians that you work with, or is it just
we have a regular drummer?
Okay.
And that's Steve.
Okay.
Steve Cornacchia. And we always give him his own hashtag, and Steve. So at shows, and Steve. Yeah. At shows, we even get the chant going, and Steve. And it's pretty fun.
Crop tops planned, and Steve.
Yeah, for sure. It's happening.
Yeah. As far as other musicians, we have kind of a rotation of people that we like to use, but we play a lot as a duo, we play a lot as a trio, so when we do those full band shows, we're usually pulling from kind of, what you call them, auxiliary.
Yeah, auxiliary players. But on the EP, to get back to your question, we did have Steve on the EP as the drummer, because he's with us everywhere we go. And then Luke actually played bass, because he's an incredible bass player.
Barnett.
Yeah.
And we had Dylan...
I can't think of his last name.
No,
he played guitar on a couple of tracks, and then Luke also actually played guitar on a couple of tracks too. So
yeah, we had Jason Adkins on keys for
he's great.
And then Emmanuel Winter on fiddle. Yeah,
funny. I have those two guys on my recording as well.
Really? Yeah, incredible
they're
musicians.
great jobs.
I mean, we feel very, very lucky to be able to work with the people we have. So
yeah, I don't think we realize sometimes in Charlotte what the caliber of musicians that we have in town.
Oh yeah,
there are some fantastic players.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
town.
Incredible.
So, you sent over a track. Can we take a listen to the track that you sent over, Fire?
Sure.
And we'll talk about it? Yeah. All right. This is Fire by Courtney, Lyyn, and Quinn.
first time, it's not a last time, baby. Can't control myself, you're my favorite pursuit. 'Cause you make me feel fire. It's burning deep in my bones. Your looks will make me feel higher. Let's go to parts unknown.
Ladies, fantastic track. I've listened to a bunch of your stuff on Spotify, and the way your voices blend is just awesome. I love it. Can you fill me in about the track?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a song that Quinn and I wrote to each other, and it's kind of us reflecting back on our wedding day and you know the feelings that we had for each other and just our love for each other. Pretty much as simple.
Yeah, it's just a love song to one another.
That's awesome. A lot of folks have a tough time expressing that in their music. Just out of curiosity, so when you write a song like this, does it just come out, or are you purposely thinking what the words are going to be?
Great question.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that experience of having a song just come out is such a unique and beautiful thing. And it doesn't always happen, you know. There's a lot of times I sit down to write music and I get a verse out and then I'm, like you were talking about earlier, brick wall and shelve it.
Yeah.
This song, I swear, like, the whole structure came out in 10 minutes. It was lyrics, melody, verse, chorus, everything was just, like, out, like, almost like my body's trying to keep up with this idea flowing out of me. And I love that feeling. And I knew right away that this was a special song to me, and I hoped, you know, that other people would connect with it as well. So I passed the buck to Quinn after I wrote the first verse and chorus, and this is when we were first kind of trying to start writing together.
Yeah.
I really want you to take this second verse. I want this to be a song for each other, from each other.
Yeah. So then I felt like, oh God. So for me, like, it was one of those things where I was like, oh my gosh, I like, this song is so beautiful and already, and she's telling me sort of her idea for it. So I need to think about this and make this thing happen. Well, It didn't happen that way. I thought on it and it was like blank slate every day. I was like, nothing's coming out. I don't know what to do. And then it wasn't until we literally had like one of the worst arguments of our life.
Oh.
And I don't even remember what the argument was now, but it was terrible. It was like one of those arguments where you're like arguing until like 3:00 in the morning and one person leaves and the other person goes to the car and turns on the music, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in the car listening to music and I'm just like so upset. And I just am like, you know, when I get upset, I just start like writing things down on my phone, like mad typing, you know. And I just remember, like, while I was writing, being so mad at her, but still thinking, like, I still love her so much. I'm so in love with her. Why am I so in love with her? I'm so angry. And as I was doing that, I was writing and I wrote the verse in that moment. So that's when my verse actually came out. And I was like, funny story. And I was really mad at you last night. Here's the verse. And she was like, what?
But also kind of adoration for that love, because I think that's when you know that you really have something good, when you can be like at your worst with each other and still you really have so much love there still.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, I know when you're collaborating with other musicians, there can be a clash of styles. So you can notice somebody writing one part and somebody writing another part, and you can say, oh, for example, guitar solos. This is that person. This is that person.
Mm-hmm.
Does it work similar when writing words too?
Sometimes I think so. Sometimes I have like different vocabulary that I'll throw in that she's kind of like, I don't know. And then vice versa, you know, there's like definitely, we're two different people, so there's definitely clash in certain moments.
We both have our strengths, and I think we try to lean into those things. So like when I have an idea for a lyric change, I think Quinn is pretty responsive to that suggestion. And when Quinn has an idea for a composition change, I try to be responsive to that. Because that's her strength, truly.
Okay.
Like, she's very good at hearing melodically what a song should sound like, and dynamically, and coming up with those ideas and changes.
Yeah.
I mean, it all blends very nicely. I'm just curious, like, if you listen to a Courtney, Lyyn, and Quinn song, can you go, that's a Quinn line? You know what I mean?
Oh.
That would be something that Courtney Lyyn would come up with.
Yeah. We'll have to ask our...
Yeah, we should ask our super fans, because I'm not sure, actually. That's a good question. Yeah. Because I pretty much wrote the chorus to Reminiscing, the new single, so I don't know. We'd have to see if they thought that was me.
Yeah. And you ladies are currently involved in a new EP.
Yes.
You're like, what's the knees deep in writing, or
No,
is it all
it's
completed?
like, it's old. It's like all old music that we've had for, forever.
Okay.
From the beginning.
Yeah. And we finally were like, we play them out live, and a lot of, I shouldn't say like a lot, but some of our fans who have been with us from day one are like, why don't you record these songs? We want to listen to them in our car. And we're like, okay.
Well, they just like didn't make the cut on my first personal album.
I was just going to ask that.
And then when it came to Remiss, it was like not the right vibe, because these are kind of sweeter, like it's more the vibe of Wander Years, my solo album.
Yeah.
So it didn't fit on Remiss, and then we dropped the single, and we were like, kind of trying to figure out like directionally where we wanted to go with the band, and like, does this music fit with us at all anymore?
Right.
And then we finally were like, this is so stupid.
Yeah.
Who cares? Like, this is music that we have, that we love.
That people that know us want to hear, because they're asking for it.
Without sounding crass, we're not that important.
Yeah, right.
We want to release some music, just freaking release the music.
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I said that to somebody the other day. I said, look, I'm putting out this EP, or I said, Nan, put it out, their stuff. And I was like, just put it out, because how did I sound? Was that awful? Nobody cares.
Right.
Like, you're going to have to go out and promote it.
Right.
You know, it's not like a million people are going to be like, oh, there's your new album, let me go listen to it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think also we're in a different day and age of music where there's a lot of versatility in one artist. It's not like people feel like they have to sit squarely in a specific genre.
Yeah.
And that's not how we are as musicians. That's not how we are as listeners of music. So we just have decided, like, we don't care. We have a variety of styles that we like to play and sing, and we're just going to do that.
Yeah.
This album is a big shift from Remiss. It's way more stripped back. It's way more acoustic. It's a lot of vocally driven songs. They're sweeter. They're a little folkier. Like,
it's supposed to take you back in your mind a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's another EP. How many songs are we talking about?
Only 4.
Only 4.
Yes.
How many were on the first EP?
6.
Wow. Okay.
And this EP is called Nostalgia. And that's a perfect name for the songs we have. So.
Yeah. And there will be a little surprise as things release. People will see the surprise entity of that. But we're not going to give it away just yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you brought a track from that called Remissing.
No. Reminiscing is actually its own single.
Oh.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
This is our latest single. But yeah, we'll have some new music very, very soon.
Yeah.
Nostalgia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What was the second song you sent me then?
Reminiscing.
That was
It's its own single, though.
Oh, that's why I'm confused.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry
sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Well, we kind of should have come up with different sounding names there, but that was just already the name of the song.
Yeah.
Remiss is the
EP.
Reminiscing.
Maybe I'm going
is
to edit that out so I don't sound so foolish.
Oh, you're fine. No, you're fine. I don't know. People kind of like that.
Well, can we take a listen to the new single?
Absolutely.
Awesome. This is Reminiscing by Courtney, Lyyn, and Quinn. track, ladies. Can you fill me in a little bit about this track?
Yeah. So this is a cool moment for us. We got to work with a producer kind of for the first time, like an actual producer for the first time. And it was really interesting and fun and different and such a growing experience for us. Because Courtney had written Reminiscing as sort of this kind of laid back, almost beachy vibe, sort of acoustic song. And when we took it to the producer, he actually came back and did some kind of like some rewrites too. And it was like really cool to see a total shift in a song.
It's almost a perspective saying like, hey, this is a great song. It's a great foundation. I think we could change it in this way to make it like a little more upbeat, a little bit more palatable for radio. I think that we could definitely add a chorus in here, and just like to see someone else take something that I thought was finished and have this whole like expansive idea about what it could be. That was cool. That was a cool experience, and we did create something totally different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have the original, and sometimes we'll play that, but the full produced single Reminiscing is very different than the original and very fun and like energetic. It's got a full sound behind it. And it was really fun for us because we were able to shift our brains. Like, when you, especially for her, I would say when you write something, you get so used to hearing it one way, but then it was like a challenge to be like, no, let's shift our minds and actually see if we can build it in this other sense. And it was fun.
Where did you record this song and the new EP?
So we worked with Joel Willis, and he's from right here in Charlotte, and this was like during COVID, so he had like a mobile rig that he
Sweet.
to us.
It's incredible, honestly.
Yeah, and he was so what's the word I'm looking for? Like easy to work with in that way, I guess. Like he really worked around our schedule, and it took us a long time to get this.
Yeah, we were a pain in the ass, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just our schedules are crazy, and during that time especially, life was crazy. So yeah, we recorded with him like in his house and our house, and
yeah, they came down to Wilmington one day and visited the beach with us, and then like we recorded at his place up in, where does he live? Mooresville? Close to Mooresville.
Okay.
I think so.
I think. I may be wrong.
So everywhere.
Yeah.
Long-winded answering that question.
Yeah.
That's fine. All right, so I'm curious. You have the EP that comes out in 2019. You have the new EP that you're working on releasing. The current state of things in music is, for me, it's the Wild West. You have people releasing singles, people releasing EPs, people releasing full-length albums, people releasing 2-song EPs, people releasing 6-song. What do you have a thought process of the releasing an EP as opposed to releasing a full-length album or releasing singles instead?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is one person's perspective, but I think the way our music has evolved and the way our society has evolved culturally, singles make more sense right now. Mm-hmm. People aren't going out and buying CDs or vinyls and getting a full album. They're streaming songs one at a time and kind of picking and choosing what they like. And so, and I also think just like having constant content, people they don't stay engaged if you're not giving them something every month. So I think singles make a lot of sense, and honestly, that's how we'll do this next EP. We'll release them as singles first, and then all together. That's just my thought.
So one single at a time, and then just release the whole EP once it's all done.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird, I mean, we've gone back and forth on that stuff too, but I have fallen into that same thought process as her. It's just the way that our culture is, setting itself up lately. You put on Spotify and you hit shuffle and that single comes on, and then the next person's single. You know what I mean? It's not like albums anymore. You don't like make the conscious effort to listen to an entire album anymore.
Yeah, I think Courtney Lyyn said it earlier. She was like, there was a whole process when people release an album, or they used to.
Yeah.
You get the album, you take off the plastic, you take it out of the sleeve, you'd look at the pictures, you'd have to take it and put it on the record player, and people would consciously listen to this whole thing.
Right.
Which brings me to my next question. You are not releasing this as an EP. You said you're going to release it as a... album, a record?
As a vinyl. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason for that is because, the EP is going to be called Nostalgia, and it brings us back to a certain time in our lives, and it just felt like vinyl would be like the perfect
match for it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this is a question I ask for a lot of the independent artists. It's kind of a switch from recording. Social media is really involved with us today. Mm-hmm. As artists, you have to do something, just have some kind of internet presence. So what role is social media having for you?
Well, it should be having a role for us, but unfortunately we are awful at it. Besides like my Tammy Lynn skit videos, like I'm non-existent on social media.
Yeah, but people love those things.
That's true. That's my one thing. Tammy Lynn for president, 2024.
Just likes to be a theater kid.
Yeah, I'm just a big dork. But honestly, we're working on that right now. We're honestly considering like hiring someone to help us run our social media because it is very important. Like, there's no way around it. I mean, it is the most helpful way to promote yourself as an independent artist, mm-hmm. independent business, whatever you're doing nowadays. And we need to be more engaged because there's algorithms, and if you stop engaging in it, the algorithm puts you down at the bottom and no one sees you. You know what I mean? Yes. So there's all this stuff to learn. Unfortunately, my brain doesn't work that way. Yeah. And I've learned that one of the most helpful things in life is learn your strengths and learn your weaknesses. Mm-hmm. And this is a weakness for me. So if I can find someone who's good at it, that I can at least have help me, like tell me what content I need to be doing and I'll give it to you and you can wrap it up for us. Like, I'm good with that. It's tough. It's tough.
I think, like, our biggest problem with it is that we really try to be genuine people in the world and genuine with our music, genuine with the people who listen to our music and come to our shows. And sometimes, we see the trends and we see the things that people are engaged with, and it just doesn't feel good to us. It's like, I don't want to give a thirst trap.
Yeah. Yeah.
That feels so cringy to me. And, to each their own. Like, everybody's out there trying to make it. I get it. And if it works for you, it works for you. But it doesn't work for us. And it's like,
I mean, it probably could work for us. It just doesn't work for us internally. Like, we feel weird.
Yeah. But it is very, very important. It's a free way to market yourself. And it's arguably maybe the best way to connect with an audience as an independent musician. So,
I think it's just tough because you start to walk this line of, I'm going to release videos and pictures and something every day, but how meaningful is it? And what do I release? Because you have bands that like, okay, now I've got to show you the inside of my life. Oh, this is me cleaning the litter box and for the cat today. I do this too. I'm a normal person. This is what I have for breakfast. I'm cooking breakfast. But then you have people who say, no, this is just strictly for music. I don't need you to know every in and out of my life. I have to have something that's myself. And I think that's something a lot of musicians struggle with. And then if you're making all this content, are you a content creator? And is that taking away from your time of creating music?
Correct. Yeah. Exactly.
It gets to like this personal place for me where I value being present. Yeah. And that's something that I'm not very good at it, but I want to be. And so it's a goal of mine to be more present in my life and be more engaged with the people and the things that are currently happening. And so when you start getting into the mentality of searching for content in every moment of your life, and that's what you kind of have to do. Like, you have to have your eyes open to this is a moment that could be captured and then used as marketing. Then it starts to kind of interfere with that value, and I think that's the struggle for me. Is like this is like stepping on a value of mine, and I don't know how to balance the two. So it's tough.
That's why I'm like really hard at it, because I've never even been like good at taking photos on family vacations because I'm so excited about what I'm doing in that moment in time, like being with the people I'm with and like being at the place that I'm at. That I just like forget. I'm like, I don't care about a phone right now. Like, I'm not even thinking about a camera or a phone right now, and so I'm just terrible at it because I don't see those moments because it doesn't strike me that way. Like, it doesn't hit my brain that way. So
I think a lot of artists, musicians, we struggle with it because it's another thing that's pulling at your time.
yes.
You know, you're trying to practice your instrument. You're trying to write music. You're trying to learn recording software. Oh, and great. I got to post something on the internet about this and I've got to do this. But I mean, my feeling is as long as you have something out
Yeah,
there,
sure.
you know, whether it's pictures, advertisements for your free band, maybe a snippet of your, you know, latest release, you just a candid photo playing guitar or singing or something. I think that's good. I'm not really sure, you know, it has to be this overall social media campaign.
Yeah.
You know, when you do something.
Totally.
You drive everybody crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
It's true.
'Cause
You're
it's-
right. And
yeah.
yourself crazy. Yeah.
Because as independent artists, we only have so much time in the day. And I don't know about you, but I would prefer to spend that doing other things than just sitting on the internet,
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
typing. And we're all victims of it today. You know, like I noticed my concentration is down to like almost 30-second snippets. I'm like, oh, what's going on in this reel? Oh, let me flip through 10 of them. And then 25 minutes later, you're like, what the heck?
I literally said this to her the other day. I'm like concerned for like just our social, you know, our minds really, because people can't sit through, like, if you go back and try to watch a movie from like 1998, good luck trying to sit through it.
Yeah.
Because scene changes are longer and the movie is like slower paced and it's like a full story and it's not like this joke and this joke and this cut and action here and action there. It's like a storyline, right? If you watch a movie today, everything changes so fast. And I'm like, that's how our brains have been trained. Like, we can't sit and just watch something
I can't even sit and watch the whole movie sometimes. I'm on my phone checking, oh, did somebody email me back? Oh, let me see what I posted this. I'm like, it's just really
We all
silly.
need more meditation.
Yes. Yeah. But
Well,
it's
there's
scary.
that mindfulness training.
Yeah.
I have friends who do that.
That's no joke. I mean, that's really good stuff, especially for musicians. I think we live in a very fast-paced industry that's constantly changing and demands so much from us. Not only like as musicians, but also, you know, on the business side of what we're doing. So I'm a huge advocate of not mental health in general, but meditation I think is a great tool to clear your mind and put yourself in a place of creativity.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it is a good thing. And you have to, sometimes you just have to put the phone down. I've talking with a friend of mine the other day about it, and he says, man, I'll just go out and if I go for a walk, I'll just leave the phone. I don't need to have the phone with me. You know, I'll just go out and I'll just enjoy myself. And
Yeah.
Kind of nice. You feel a little free when you do.
You're like, oh my God.
I mean, what do we do before cell phones? I mean, I know me and probably everybody else, if you leave the house and you're going for a drive and you don't have your phone with you, you go, what did I do with my phone?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
What did I do before I had a cell phone? I just went out.
You just went
and I
out.
drove.
Or you like told someone like, hey, meet me here at this time.
Yeah.
And if they were 15 minutes late, cool. If they were longer than that, well, I left you because you weren't here.
Yeah. It's a tough thing. We've got to detach ourselves a little bit.
Oh, we do. Yeah, totally.
So talking social media, podcasting is also considered a form of social media. And you ladies also have a podcast of your own called The Next Song on Deck, or Next Song on Deck.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Fill me in.
This was genuinely started during COVID because we had an open mic together at Thomas Street Tavern.
Okay.
And we loved that open mic. Like, we started it. It was kind of our baby. We created it and grew it, and we had so much fun doing it. And then obviously with the pandemic, everything got shut down. So that ended too. And I was talking to one of my best friends who lives in New York about how I was like sad, you know, I was like missing stuff like that. And he was like, you know, that just gives me an idea. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I think you guys should start a podcast where you give independent artists a platform again. Like, it's obviously not going to be an open mic, but like, you can interview independent artists and then you can share one of their songs and you can talk about one of their songs. And, you know, we do covers together sometimes. So that's cool, part of it as well. So it just, like, this whole idea just started turning, and my friend Jeff and Courtney and I got together and we started putting the pieces together. And Jeff and I even took like a little podcasting course to like sort of learn the basics of what it takes and all that stuff. And, we started it a year ago, actually last week. So it's been happening a year. We've thoroughly enjoyed getting to know the artist and their music and also sharing their stuff. And it does make us feel better as artists to be able to share artists. Cause I feel like we're all in this together. We're all independent musicians, are all creators who need to like support each other and help each other. And if we all come together and support each other, we have a much better playing field, you know?
I mean, little side rant on this note is that I think, like, back to the social media thing, you can get so focused on yourself and your music and how to promote yourself and how to, like, get people listening to you that it's you know, you can get to a place where you're not looking outside of that. And so this is a great way for us to be able to connect with other people and, like, do something that feels good. That's not about us. It's just about sharing good music.
Yeah.
Well, it's good for, I mean, it's good to help self-promote because it's part of what you do. It's part of your quote-unquote brand and things that you do. But I think I said it to you earlier, you know, I'm out performing on Fridays and Saturdays. I don't get to meet, and mine is just the local Charlotte music community. I know you have a wider reach for your podcast, but I get to meet people that I would not normally run in those circles with because I'm out playing those nights. So hence, you know, I wouldn't have met you ladies if it hadn't been for Joni Deutsch being introducing us via an email, you know, for a podcast festival.
Right.
So it's nice to get out and meet other people in your community as well.
It really is. And also, like, this is the craziest part to me. I was not expecting this to come from the podcast for us, but as a musician, I've actually grown because we take that independent artist and one of their songs and we break down one song on the show together and like the ins and outs of it and how it was created and all that stuff. And by listening so closely to these artists' songs and hearing them break it down with us and us breaking it down with them, it's made me like hear music differently. Yeah. It's made me like think of it more almost in a like production side of things. And it's made me, for our own music, want to produce differently and like hear different sounds here and there. You know what I mean? So it's been really fun to do all this.
I think it is. And in a way, it's therapeutic. You get to talk to other musicians and find out, oh, I'm not the only one. Hence, I was talking about the social media thing. Oh, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one thinking about this. That, you know, what do I do with this? Right. You know? Yeah. How often do you release?
In the beginning it was weekly, but we have, since stepped back to doing, bi-weekly. Am I saying that right? Yes. Bi-weekly.
Yeah. I do. This podcast is monthly because I find with my schedule, I'm like, it's got to fit in. Yeah. Yeah. And there's a thing when Joni Deutsch was in, if you listening, Joni Deutsch used to do the Amplifier podcast for Charlotte, WFAE, I believe.
WFAE.
And we talked about it, and she told me about podcast fade, which I knew was a thing, but that's where podcasters start podcasting, they get into it, and they're out within 8 episodes. Like, I think that is the number when people start dropping because they realize how much work it is, what goes in. Oh, I'm not Joe Rogan overnight. I don't have 1 million people contact me as a sponsor. Right. Yeah. You know, I'm out of here. Right. So they go into it for the wrong reasons or for whatever reason, but it is a thing just to keep up with it. Yeah. So,
yeah. It's a lot of
project. It's not something.
Oh, for sure.
Well, like I said, unless you're Joe Rogan or something like that, it's not something you're doing for money.
Yeah. I mean, you can make money at it. I mean, I'm fortunate I've got a couple of sponsors on mine at this point, but that's 5 years into the podcast. Right. You know, 60 episodes in, you have a proven format, and it's niche. I mean, everybody knows when they listen to the Queen City Music Podcast, they're going to listen to Charlotte musicians. Right. You know, they're not going to listen to somebody in California. Not that that's not great. You know, it's just that I'm trying to
build a community.
Open up, build a community in Charlotte and let everybody know who's here.
Right.
So.
Which I appreciate that about you. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
All right. So we're talking about being a musician and doing all these other outside things. One of the things we know as being musicians is having a stream of multiple incomes coming in. Multiple income stream. You ladies also have another side business outside of music called Local Carolina.
Yes.
Fill me in.
Oh man, this was a decision that was made through like the heart of being shut down from COVID. And Quinn and I thankfully, we had actually planned on going on tour, which benefited us because we moved into a travel trailer onto a friend's farm. And then when everything got shut down, like, you know, we were fortunate enough to not have a lot of overhead over us, but we were still in a panic. Like, we're not making money on music. We just didn't know what the world was going to look like. And so we wanted to do something, wanted to keep ourselves busy and, you know, hopefully create a successful business. But more importantly, we wanted to do something to help our community, which was clearly hurting at the time and still is. And so that's how the concept was formed. And the idea is that we take products from all over the Carolinas, like locally made products from small businesses, and we put them into these curated gift boxes. And, you know, they have different themes, like, you know, it could be a hiking box or a, like, treat yourself style box. But the goal is to connect people with small businesses and their communities and locally made products that are just as good, if not usually better, than the stuff that you're buying in the store.
Sure.
And you know that money's going back to the local economy, to families, you know. That's what the dream was. So we provide a lot of information on each product and each business in the box. It's been a lot of fun for us, and yeah, we hope to see it continue to grow as well.
How many businesses do you have involved with local Carolina right now? Do you know?
Right now it's pretty small, but it's still pretty big for just being our first year in. I think we've got up to 37 businesses that we're working with.
Businesses in the past,
That's great.
Yeah.
Partnered with in some way.
And if there's anybody listening who wants to get involved with you, how they reach local Carolina? Is there a website? Is there an email to send something to?
Yeah, it's supportlocalcarolina.com is the website.
Okay.
And Support Local Carolina for Instagram.
If you want to email, it's info@supportlocalcarolina.com.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I try to keep it pretty, you know, the same.
Yeah.
So as we start to close things out, ladies, do you have anything coming up? Any shows that we can fill folks in? This podcast, particularly us talking, this will be released for August, so that first week of August, if you have anything coming up.
First week of August. Okay, so yes, I am very excited to say that we're playing the Evening Muse. We're headlining the Evening Muse August 26th. So we will be playing Evening Muse, which is one of our favorite venues. Has such a great sound, and we can't wait.
I have to note the calendar because I haven't had a chance to come check you out live. So.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. We have John Ward-Bile. I hope I'm saying his name right. The last name always confuses me. John Ward-Bile is opening for us here, but he is a Chapel Hill musician. So, but he's really, really talented. So I'm excited to have him.
Fantastic. All right. So if we want to get in touch with Courtney, if I can say it correctly, if we want to get in touch with Courtney, Lyyn, and Quinn, how do we do that? Emails, websites, fill us in.
So, you know, thankfully, Courtney, Lyyn, and Quinn is not a name that's in high demand. So if you search Courtney, Lyyn, and Quinn, you will find our website, our Instagram, our Facebook. All of it can be found just under that name search. So pretty easy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, ladies, thank you so much for coming on today, telling us all about everything that you do, and much success to you.
Thank you so much. I did want to add one more thing, if that's okay. For Next Song on Deck, the podcast, there is actually a separate Instagram account. So if anybody wants to find our podcast, you can just go on Instagram to Next Song on Deck Pod.
Awesome. And if you are a musician, you should definitely check out that podcast.
Yes.
Contact us, you know, we'll interview you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Fantastic. Thanks again, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the 59th episode of the Queen City Music Podcast, and I hope you'll go back and check out past episodes. You can find the QCMP on all your favorite streaming platforms. As always, if you have an idea for an episode or would like to be a guest on the QCMP, reach out to me at qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Also, check out our local partners, Records on the Wall at rexonthewall.com. Reporting from 20XX at reportingfrom20xx.wordpress.com. Queen City Live at Instagram.com/Queen City Live Music. And Charlotte New Music at charlottenewmusic.org. Until next month, be well and stay safe.